Vampire the Masquerade is a tabletop RPG that was released in 1991. In it, you typically play a vampire in a setting spanning anywhere between the Dark Ages to modern day, and the stories usually involve politics between different vampire clans. It borrows lore from a lot of different sources of vampire mythology, from vampire movies to Anne Rice novels, and even to Jewish folklore when it comes to interpreting biblical events. You don't have to go very far to see where some of the inspirations come from. Just try and guess where they got the idea behind the subtly named Nosferatu clan. Honestly though, the setting is pretty interesting if you're into that sort of thing, and it can be pretty fun to play. So it's no surprise when a video game was made based off of VTM. There were two of them actually, but I'm going to talk about the first one that came out. Vampire the Masquerade Redemption was made by Nihilistic Software and released by Activision in 2000 for the PC. It's a fully 3D RPG that attempts to adapt the tabletop mechanics to a video game interface. While its successor Bloodlines was much more faithful to these mechanics, Redemption, even though the end result is pretty different from the source material, still did mostly a good job with its adaptation. Mostly. The controls are really simple. Movement and actions are controlled by the mouse. You just point and click where you want your character to move, attack, and interact with. The keyboard just provides hotkeys for your standard fare like bringing up the inventory, selecting different abilities, etc. I'd even say it's possible to play the entire game with the mouse alone, but I wouldn't recommend it. My only real complaint with the controls is that you can't use the keyboard to control the camera. It's only controlled by physically moving the mouse cursor to the edge of the screen. It's frustrating at first, but you surprisingly get used to it before too long. Now from here on out, I'll be getting into minor spoilers in the story, but I won't give away the most important bits. The story is split into two halves, the Dark Ages and the Modern Era, or Final Nights if you want to go by the tabletop terminology. The story is admittedly pretty stock. The premise is basically Romeo and Juliet. Two people fall in love pretty much at first sight, but they can't be together because their circumstances forbid it. However, I'd argue that the story actually takes a back seat to what I consider the most enjoyable part of the game, the characters. To begin with, the main character is a joy to watch.
My name is Christoph Romuald. I am a man of God and a soldier in heaven's cause.
So, Chris here.
I am Christoph Romuald.
Oh, Christoph Romuald.
Christoph,
Christoph, the murderer of Avra! Christoph, the butcher of countless primacils!
Christoph, ravager of the impenetrable Tremere fortress!
What was his name again?
Mark my name well, Morsi, for the devil will wish to know who delivered thee unto his cheerless realm. Tell the devil thou wert dispatched from earth by Christoph Romuald. Christoph Romuald.
That guy. When I play tabletop RPGs, Christoph is who I wish I could roleplay like. The game goes all out with its Old English dialect, and I love it. The Old English dialect alone is enough to make the characters memorable. You got this guy.
Then shall I drink the old leper's blood before the moon hath fully waned.
This guy.
Bring me a goblet of sweet blood from an elder Canaanite of beautiful visage, or venture not within my lair.
You even have Anita Sarkeesian from one of her past lives.
I find her the fairest of all God's creatures.
Such thoughts are evil! Thy concupiscence damns thy soul and dooms Aneska. I command thee, purge such lusts from thy heart, if not for thy sake, then for hers!
What would otherwise be a pretty boring, generic love story is made endearing. The characters weave this poetic tapestry of such cheese and eloquence that you just have to enjoy it. To any other unrelated fantasy stories that don't have vampires at all, this is how you do love between a vampire and a human.
Thou hast stuck me a wound that heals not. My life's blood pours out before me, and I cannot stanch it. I do love thee, fair Aneska. I do love thee with a passion I have never known.
My soul fell when first I beheld thee, and now my heart is cleft in twain. My love of God and my love of thee have torn me to ribbons, for I must betray one to keep faith with the other.
Thus my sins do pour out before me, for I have spilt my wickedness upon thy innocent bosom.
I'm calling it. Christoph Romuald does a way better job at selling this game than Jeff Keighley sells Doritos. My biggest complaint with the game, though, is its missed opportunities, mainly with character progression. You've got attributes like strength, dexterity, and stamina that factor into combat, but all the rest of the attributes are absolutely meaningless. There aren't any points in the game where higher charisma unlocks extra dialogue options, or higher perception lets you notice something you otherwise couldn't, etc. Altogether, though, if you're into older computer RPGs, I definitely recommend giving this game a shot. You can get it from GOG.com for about $6, and it'll provide a solid 20 to 30 hours of gameplay. If you like what you saw in this review, you won't be disappointed.
Kristoff, thy wound!
Nay, 'tis nothing. A scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off. No, it isn't. Well, what's that then? I've had worse. You liar. Come on.